Hi, welcome to the Bitter Draft. My name's Phil, and this is the third installment of the history of the dollar. And as you can see, it's 1971 until the death of the dollar, which is probably going to be very soon. And we're going to go into this now. This episode is the big reveal of what all the other previous episodes have done. We're building up to. So I suggest you, if you didn't watch all of them, you go back and watch them all. You may not understand everything that I'm saying in this one, but this is the big episode. So I hope you enjoy it. So in 1971, Nixon closed the gold window, and the financial system should have collapsed at that point, because if you think about it, if the dollar is a promise for gold, and there's no more gold to be promised, if the window's closed, everyone should have just walked away with their hands in their pockets saying, well, shucks, we shouldn't have trusted those Americans. However, some genius economists, and here they are right here, you can see, this is what a PhD economist looks like. I only have a master's degree, so my brain did not expand to its true, proper proportions, but maybe I'll work on that another time. So some genius economists realized that nobody wanted to walk away, right? So, the Bank of England, the Bank of France, every country you could think of at the time, except maybe the Soviets, were holding dollars as their assets. They had given America all their gold, and they were holding dollars on their side of the balance sheet. So if everyone just walked away, we were talking about a global economic catastrophe, right? So nobody wanted to walk away, and they came up with this debt-based monetary system. They said, we don't need the dollar anymore. We can just use debt. And everyone said, okay, let's try it. And over the years, people have forgotten that the dollar is money. I mean, I've been talking to people the past few weeks and months trying to explain to them that the dollar is money, and they're like, no. I'm sorry. Gold is money. I've been trying to explain to them that gold is money, and they've been saying, no. The dollar is money all by itself. So, and the reason they think this, the reason this is working temporarily, is because of this debt-based monetary system. But how does it work? So let's take a look. Oop. There we go. So it's promises and more promises. The entire system is based on promises. So all prices still to this day are linked to gold. So when gold was $35 an ounce, a coffee was a nickel. And now that gold is $2,000 an ounce, a black coffee is Starbucks is $2. I think I said it was $3 to $5 somewhere else. But a small black coffee is $2. Obviously, you can get large coffees, and you can get lots of things added to the coffee, which drags the price up. But I'm looking at the raw commodity of black coffee. Now, in gold terms, coffee's gotten significantly cheaper. It's about a third cheaper, I think. But the price is still linked to gold, and there's a logical path from day to day. It's called the monetary regression, right? You can always determine how much something is worth today by how much it was worth yesterday. And when new things are added, when something new is invented, it's added into the matrix and sort of an IPO of a product, and then the price is determined, and then it logically flows, and prices go up and down. So anyway, all prices are still to this day linked to gold. So if you couldn't buy any gold with dollars, you couldn't buy anything else at all. If you don't understand this concept, go back and watch my older videos. If you still don't understand it, please contact me. Either thebitterdraft@gmail.com, or just leave a comment in the Rumble video, and I'll try and answer it another way. This component is critical to understanding what we are talking about today. So the dollar is a promise for gold, as I said in an earlier video. Treasury and private debt are promises for dollars, which are promises for gold. So when promises try to be redeemed, promises for promises increase to keep the promises from being redeemed. So if thinking I have $2,000, I'm going to go buy an ounce of gold. The market will say, no, good sir. Don't buy just gold. You could put that into treasury debt, and we'll pay you interest, right? So you can get 4%. And I've spoken to people who are like, gold just sits there, right? You should be investing. You can get more returns by investing in other things. So the promises for promises keep increasing to keep the promises from being redeemed for gold. Because if the promises get redeemed for gold, then the price of gold will go up in the terms of the promises for gold, and then the promises for other things, the price in terms of promises for other things will also go up. So the promises for promises, and I'm doing this on purpose, the promises for promises are keeping the promises from being redeemed, and that's what's keeping the system afloat. It sounds ridiculous, and that's because it is. So the system doesn't care if the debt is public or private, right? They just need more and more promises. They don't care. They don't even care what you spend it on, right? They don't care if it's underwater gender theory basket weaving. They don't care if it's war. The system doesn't care. It just needs the debt to increase. Doesn't care what it's spent on, right? Could be spent on good things. Could be spent on bad things. If you borrow a bunch of money to dig a hole and fill it back in, system loves it. The debt went up. That's all that this debt-based system cares about. Increasing the debt. So So the debt is what keeps the dollar afloat. And in the real world, if you think about it, you might have a $10,000 in loans. Let's say you have a car loan and you have about $10,000 left on it. Now you might have $14,000 in the bank. You could pay off that car loan, and you could still have $4,000 in the bank. But many people don't. They still just make the monthly payment, and their thinking is, I have this liquidity in the bank account. I might need it, right? I might have an emergency. I might want to buy something that's very expensive suddenly. And I also just like having it there. There's a sense of security to keep that money, to keep the dollars out of the repayment. So when you take out a loan, the bank puts the repayment of that loan on their asset side, and they put the loan itself on the liabilities side. So they create the money out of thin air. They create the dollars out of thin air. And I need to choose my words very carefully. They create the dollars out of thin air, and they give you $10,000, and they put, let's say it's a 10% interest, they put $11,000 on their side, right? When you repay the loan, it's like matter and antimatter meeting. The dollars are destroyed. They no longer exist in the economy, right? So if you go out and spend those dollars and buy the car, and then those dollars go somewhere else and people use them, right? The car company buys something with it, it pays their employees, and those employees go and spend that dollars. That's called the velocity of money, right? When you pay off that loan, the dollar and the loan meet and go boop, poof, and they disappear, and that dollar is wiped off the face of the earth. That's deflationary. That's very, very deflationary. But if you use your brain and think a second, you'll realize you have $10,000 loan. So you have an $11,000 loan, and only $10,000 were generated. So more antimatter was generated than matter. So let's look at this balance sheet here. So we have the Bank of Thrak balance sheet, which is a historical bank that stretches all the way back into prehistory, when Thrak invented it. And they have, here's my balance sheet. I have borrowed I borrowed $100, and I've promised a 10% interest rate. So I have a net liability of $10. The bank, on the other hand, sees my loan, and they have given me $100, and they have an asset of $110, which is the loan repayment. They have a net of $10. Now, if this is the only loan in existence, I cannot pay that loan off, no matter what I do, because there's only $100 in existence, but I owe $110. I must default on that loan. So I'll pay off what I can, and I default on the 10. There's no more dollars in existence. The bank goes out of business, and I go do something else with my life instead of trying to hunt down dollars. Right? We'll use some. We go back to the raw money, basically. Some other form of money gets created, or of currency. Sorry, some other form of currency gets created instead of this debt-based promises based currency. All right. Now, let's say, so the bank realizes this, and they loan out money to you as well. So you also borrow $100. You also borrow $100, and you're given $100 in assets right here. And then you also have $110 in liabilities. So you have a net minus $10. The bank likewise records this the same way. Now, here's what happens. I do a service for you or a good for you, right? I sell a good to you or I do perform a service for you and you give me $10. I can now pay off my loan. I now have $110. But now there's only, there's 110. So you still owe $110, but there's only $90 in the system because you gave me $10 to perform a good or service. So now the debt burden is even worse because I originally owed $10, but I got $10 from you, but you also owed $10 and you gave me $10. So now your debt burden is $20. The system's debt burden was $20. Now that doesn't matter who repays it. The total system owes the $20. So only $200 exists to service $220 of debt. The same system, and now it's worse, right? So now you default and the system crashes again, right? There's no more dollars to loan out. There's no more way to get the dollars. The bank runs out of dollars. It shuts down, and you walk away with your hands in your pockets and find something else to do with your life, right? So the financial system is dependent on people getting, keeping, and servicing, but not totally paying off, an increasingly negative debt balance, right? The debt must increase to keep the system afloat. So for this guy, for you to pay off your loan, somebody else has to take out a loan, and somebody else, and somebody else. And the debt bubble grows and grows and grows and grows and grows, right? And if it doesn't grow, here's the thing. Everyone's like, oh, we should pay off our debt. If it doesn't grow, then there is a deflationary collapse. We're constantly at risk of deflation. The debt must increase exponentially, as I just said. If the debt stops growing, it's like a game of musical chairs. Everyone suddenly scrambles to pay off their loans because there's a shortage of dollars, right? You feel that when the debt stops expanding, there's this sudden like, oh my God, I have $10,000 in loans and I only have $8,000 to pay it off. I need $2,000 right now. And that is experienced by everybody at the exact same time. So it's a deflationary crash, and then you get a bunch of defaults. You get people walking away from their loans. You get housing crashes. You get bank failures. You get the whole thing. So the Fed staves off that risk by lowering the cost of borrowing. The Fed said, no, just borrow a little more. Here, we'll get the interest rates lower. 0% interest rates. Once it hits that zero bound, right? Once the interest rates hit zero, it requires an accelerating increase in the money supply. So that's when you get the money printer go brrr, right? And the money supply, and when I say the money, I mean the dollar supply. I always have to use my words carefully. The dollar supply must accelerate. And we have a word for a scheme that requires exponential growth not to fall apart, right? It's a Ponzi. This entire system is a Ponzi. Here's this is the big reveal. The financial system is a Ponzi scheme. It's a very, very, very big Ponzi scheme, but it is a Ponzi scheme. In fact, it's the largest Ponzi in world history. So every central bank in the world has dollars as assets on its balance sheet, and every currency is backed by dollars. And the dollars are backed by some gold, but mostly on the balance sheet, it's the debt. It's the treasury debt. So the treasury debt needs to expand exponentially to keep the dollars from deflating, to keep that deflationary panic from happening. The debt must continue to increase. When no more debt can be issued, the Ponzi will collapse. So when will no more debt be issued? It will happen when somebody says, I don't want any more promises for the dollars. And it will happen very suddenly. People will say, somebody will go for a loan and they'll say, I need to roll over a loan, or I need a new loan, and the debt cannot be issued. No matter how many dollars are in the system, no matter what, they'll say, we can't issue any more debt. We don't believe it will be repaid, right? It doesn't matter what the interest rates will go up. They'll say, we'll promise you all this extra money. We'll give you 110% interest. We'll borrow $1,000 and give you $2,500 back. But they'll say, no, we don't. These are just promises for money. We need money. And they may not even realize it, right? They may not be thinking in the terms that I'm thinking of, or that you are now thinking of, or like gold is money and everything is just promises for money and we need money. No, it's just the system itself will not be capable of issuing more debt, no matter whatever the interest rate is, right? So when no more debt can be issued, when that time happens, the Ponzi will collapse. The Fed is Gozer. It can choose the form of the collapse. It can choose a deflationary collapse or hyperinflationary collapse. That's the only choice the Fed has. The Fed cannot stay the collapse. It cannot avoid it, cannot stop it, can't really even delay it. It might be able to delay it very slightly by perfectly timing everything, but it cannot delay it. Even if it tries to perfectly time it, this collapse is guaranteed. So the question is, how imminent is this collapse? The collapse looks imminent, and I have two graphs here to show it. I try to avoid graphs because this is a very basic economics course, and I don't want people to be scared of it, but I need graphs to show what's going on. And these graphs are exponential curves. You can see the exponential growth curve. What an exponential growth curve means is that you need more and more and more and more of something, or something is increasing at an accelerating rate. So if you imagine slamming on the gas, not only are you going faster, but you're going faster at a faster rate, right? When you were in your car. And when you hit that terminal velocity, you can't go any farther, right? This is kind of the same thing. So the debt, this is federal debt. And now there's also private debt, but I'm just looking at public debt here because I didn't want to put another graph on the chart. But if you look at public debt is spiking up and up and up and up. It's a slave to this curve. And if you can use your imagination, use the power of your imagination, you can go further up. Whenever it hits that vertical point where it's just going straight up, that's the end. That's the end of the debt system, right? No one will take any more debt, and the value of the debt goes to zero. And likewise, this is the money supply. This is the other side. So this is the promises for money, and this is the promises for money, right? When the money supply likewise hits a vertical. Now this is the COVID print, and right now we're deflating. But when you can sort of use your mind's eye to draw a curve right here. And whenever we hit that curve, whenever this point hits that curve, they're going to have to turn the money printer back on, or we're going to have a deflationary crash. So the money supply is likewise just going to increase exponentially. So when the promises for money are increasing exponentially, when people are just borrowing, no matter what the interest rate is, borrowing absolutely as much as they can, and it's being fueled by just the dollar supply increasing exponentially, the term debt just loses all meaning, and it has no point, right? And that's when you have hyperinflation. That's what a hyperinflation looks like. Now, if the Fed will print the money, but if they didn't, the debt would increase, and then it would just kind of stop somewhere up here, and we would have a deflationary collapse. But they will print the money. I'm going to go into that in later episodes. So here are some final concluding thoughts of this, because this is a very serious issue. In 1933, the dollar was revalued from $20.67 to $35. Today, the revaluation would be from about $42 because they tried to repeg, I think in 1972 or 1973, they tried to reestablish the gold peg from 35 to 42, but it failed very quickly. So today, the revaluation, but on the Fed's balance sheet, it is $42 an ounce right now. So today, the revaluation would be from $42 to about $50,000 and counting and going up every single day. So right now it's going down because it is deflating. But once they get back on the curve, it will be going up every single day. What happens in a revaluation? You say, okay, forget the debt, forget all these treasury bills, forget all these mortgage-backed securities on our balance sheet. Wipe those off; those are worthless. We have this much gold. We have 8,300 tons, which they're going to have to open the door and show us. So we have 8,300 tons of gold, and we have 72 quadrillion billion bazillion dollars. So this many dollars equals this much gold. We're resetting the system. That's what a gold revaluation is. So it would be much, 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 much bigger than what happened in 1929. You can see it's exponentially larger. Now there might be some deflation before they revalue, in which case the number might be lower, but we'll get into that later. But regardless, it looks like we would be lucky if we got a 1929 if we got a Great Depression. We should count our blessings. So the Madoff scandal was a $60 billion Ponzi. And you remember on the news, I'm sure you all watched, remember the wailing and the gnashing of teeth, the people who thought they had money You know, they had invested with this guy, and they thought they invested a lot, and they thought their money was safe, and then it turned out it was all gone, and they're all broke, and you know, there was a lot of pain and sadness. So that was a $60 billion Ponzi. This is, you know, in the hundreds of trillions of, I mean, it's going to be whatever the Ponzi ends up being, because this is a Ponzi of the money supply itself. So the numbers almost have no meaning. But the scale of this Ponzi is hard to fathom. It's every bond on Earth is worthless. It's worthless now. It's going to be revealed to be worthless because there's nothing underneath it. So every bond, every retirement plan, every 401k, every public pension scheme, you know, there's a few stocks that'll probably do okay, but most of the stocks are massively, massively, massively overvalued. So everything you can think of is probably overvalued, massively overvalued, and your savings are not real. The savings are simply not real. When the Ponzi blows, the holders of money, which is gold and silver, will be unbelievably rich, and everybody else will be unbelievably poor. And this is not necessarily a good thing. It's going to be extremely dangerous to especially be walking around waving money around, because these people will be starving. So we're going to have to be you're going to have to be very careful with how you show your money and how you spend your money, because if somebody sees you spending silver and they're starving, they might assume you have more silver and come after you for it. It's going to be the way of the world. And this is, you know, we're going to build communities. I don't think civilization is going to go into a total zombie apocalypse. I think, you know, everyone's going to build communities with their neighbors. And, you know, if you're very rich and you did the right thing and you saved money, then you're going to help your neighbors, and they're going to, you know, maybe buy their house and give them, you know, 6 months rent free, something like that. And they're going to have money too now because they sold their house to you, and then you can go and buy things together. And you know, they will be thankful that you pulled them out of a predicament. And you'll build a community, and hopefully we'll pull out of it. One final note is we cannot vote our way out of this. So it doesn't matter if Trump wins or Biden wins or somebody else wins. It doesn't matter if we all decide to go libertarian or if RFK tries to peg everything to gold. You cannot vote your way out of this. This is a reckoning, right? We've borrowed money we don't have and cannot repay, and the whole world's done it. And you have to go through this purging fire. And so, and it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be really, really bad. And so I like I said, I encourage everyone to build a community. Try and build it now. And may whatever gods we might believe in, if they do exist, have mercy on us, because we're gonna need it. We're going to need it. But a better world will wait on the other side of it. We will rebuild, and we will rebuild with true money. And there will be no choice but to repeg to gold. And with true money, we will know what everything is supposed to cost. And people will find jobs that they can appreciate and rely on. They don't have to be a TikToker anymore. They can go build something. And people will find the correct things that they should be doing with their lives. And we will move on from there. So we will get through this, I hope. All right, on the next episodes, I'm going to talk about the difference between a deflationary crash and a hyperinflationary crash, and I'm going to go into great detail about that. And I think it'll be very eye-opening. All right, have a great day.